Coming up on Smart Tech Today, Matthew Cassinelli and I talk about some changes to services, including those of you who are still using Slingbox. Plus, we talk about Bose's new soundbar, home theater on the HomePod, and I talk about how I'm getting packages delivered these days using a smart garage door opener. It's all that and so much more coming up on Smart Tech Today. Smart Tech Today is brought to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? Well, LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether employees are working in the office or remotely. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Casper. From award-winning mattresses to pillows, sheets, and duvets, Casper transforms the way we sleep one snooze at a time. Go to casper.com/STT and use code STT for $100 off select mattresses. Welcome back to Smart Tech Today, where we explain the exciting, the dynamic, and the sometimes confusing subject that is the Internet of Things. I am your host, one of them, Mikah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Matthew Cassinelli. Hello, Mikah.
Hello, Matthew. Are you breathing a sigh of relaxation?
Yeah. The big news, Shortcut Sync is finally working for me. So, that's what we've all been waiting for. And
yeah, I was launching Apple News every day to see if Shortcut Sync was working for you. Just hopping in there, looking at that map of Shortcut Sync across the United States.
State by state.
State by state. There were a few states where Apple hadn't spun up Shortcut Sync yet, and they were kind of late getting all the bits into place, sort of sending over those bits and bytes. Finally, enough of those bits and bytes in a couple of states caught up, and it clearly showed that Shortcut Sync was going to be working across the entire United States. There were a few detractors who said that Shortcut Sync was not going to be, officially working, and that maybe some of those bits and bytes were, what's the word I'm looking for? They were malfunctioning bits and bytes. Yeah, sort of ghost data, but there's no evidence of that. And so we can happily celebrate the fact that your Shortcut Sync is working across the greater, swath of people within the United States.
I drove around Oakland on Saturday honking my horn, and people seemed to cheer along to it. So it was a nice day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of wild how much people wanted that. Well, let us get into the show. That was a delightful little moment, and I'm glad to have shared that with you. So this comes in some changes to services. I like this. Yes. And it starts with the Slingbox. Folks who are big fans of cutting the cord type services or different ways to watch their media, no matter where you happen to be, are probably familiar with Slingbox. It is one of the tools that you can use. It's a lot like TiVo, and I would kind of compare it to Plex as well. But it is essentially a server that you can kind of watch all of your different content on and see it across the web. Unfortunately, Slingbox says that it is discontinuing. And here, let's just read this. Yeah. As of November 9th, which is today, Sling Media's Slingbox products will be discontinued. Sling Media will continue to support existing users who remain under warranty. Thank you for your support. This is a little sad, yeah? I mean, they haven't tweeted since December of 2018. Not that is necessarily a hint, but it kind of is a hint.
Yeah.
Do we know? I mean, I don't know that I know a lot of people who've used Slingbox, if I have to be honest. I'm looking.
I've used it.
Yeah. Oh, tell me about it. Tell me everything there is to know about Slingbox, please.
I've got an interesting story just because it is I almost said old school service, but that's not true at all because it's only a couple of years old. But before I worked at Workflow in my previous job, I was a social media manager, basically community manager type thing. And I did live tweets for Fox television shows. And so we would pre-watch the episodes of stuff like The Simpsons and Family Guy and Bob's Burgers and wrote jokes to time them in real time with the shows, and then would tweet them out as they were happening for like on behalf of these brands on their channels. And the way that we used it, the Slingbox, was to watch East Coast or West Coast television while it was happening and tweet it in real time. So I would watch Family Guy like 3 hours early from a Slingbox that was in New York. And then we were able to basically tune in and then do both live shows just with somebody from like one coast or the other.
I think I may have used this in my old job now that I think about it, for those same things. So I worked at a company called Newsy, and I can't actually name the partners that we had, but we had partners, content partners who would buy videos from us that related to late night television. And so it was the job. We would have people who literally were paid to watch late night TV, find the highlights of it, and then write little scripts that kind of explain the highlights of the event. And then I would go in not having any idea what a Teresa Giudice is and a Real Housewife, all that stuff, and read these scripts, anchor these videos kind of talking about the latest highlights. And I think that at some point, because what you're kind of describing there sounds like what it would have been, because we were in Central Time, and so you could have gotten it, an hour early by getting onto these Slingboxes and seeing that content. So I wouldn't be surprised if those TV watchers used Slingbox for that. I wonder what it's going to be replaced by.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what was always sort of weird. Is it always seemed a little sketchy. It's kind of like outside of how you really should use this stuff. I mean,
yes,
I think because they sold the hardware, they weren't hosting servers where you were doing this stuff and then rebroadcasting it to people. And so in theory, they're just selling you the hardware and then you're capturing the content and rebroadcasting it to yourself. And so it kind of falls into the terms of use of like using it for your own purposes, not because they're not just like scraping cable feeds and rebroadcasting them or something like that. Like you're doing that. So it was always a little in the weird realm. And I think it also just preceded most streaming services. So that was the big thing for most typical everyday users. But now they're basically saying the hardware thing itself isn't any longer. I'm not sure what it means they do have just like their normal TV subscription, but I think it's like they're moving away from the hardware thing. And they're also saying that it says in the discontinue thing, Slingbox servers will be permanently taken offline 24 months after November 9th. So you've got a little while to use them if you already do. But it's kind of just an interesting end of an era. Like the transition to streaming services is like far beyond complete now. And that old realm of half and half kind of stuff is now dead. So just an interesting note. If you do have that also, expect it to go away sometime.
Yes. And it is worth noting that Slingbox and Sling TV are two different services.
That's what it is. Okay.
That one is an OTT service, and Slingbox is kind of a separate thing. Made by Sling Media is the name of the company, I think. So I wanted to see kind of what people were kind of saying, how other people were feeling about this. And it's kind of funny because on Twitter, most of the people were like, what? Sling TV is going away? No, folks, Sling TV is not going away. Slingbox is an entirely different thing. And there are a lot of people.
I guess I confused those.
Yeah, there are some people upset about it, that their Slingboxes aren't going to be working anymore. They're like pretty much 2 years after I got this. Now it's a brick.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's kind of what happens sometimes in the IoT world. Some stuff does have that shelf life, and it'll be interesting to see if there's something that people can replace it with besides something like Plex.
Yes. Speaking of sort of aging out, one of those changes that's happening is with Philips Hue. So right now, the Philips Hue bulbs and the Philips Hue system works with Nest integration. So Nest, of course, is like Nest Thermostat, Nest Cam, Nest Protect, and that integration will cease to be on November 17th. In fact, Signify or Philips Hue says integration with Nest Thermostat, Nest Cam, and Nest Protect will be discontinued, but it's only going to be temporary because of the way that, and I figured that this was kind of it. This is more of a headline. You know, people talk about link bait stuff all the time, and they don't quite have an understanding for what link bait is. They think that if it's a headline that seems outrageous, then that's what link bait is. No. Link bait refers to bait and switch, meaning that you lead someone in with one thing and then you give them something else entirely. And this feels a little bit bait and switch because it gives the impression that the integration is going to go completely away. But as we know, when Google scooped up Nest, they changed the way that Nest functionality worked when it came to integrations. And right now, Works with Nest was the program, but it's changing from Works with Nest to Works with Hey Goo. I can't say that now. I just remembered I've got a Nest audio behind me. But it changed from the first one to the second one, same as Works with Siri, works with Alexa. And so because of this, that transition will happen. And then Philips Hue will also make that transition so that you will have those integrations. So it's just a switch to the new type of integration that you'll need to do. But
it's not out yet. So I think that's kind of why I can't totally tell if this just means maybe it's going to happen right in November 17th is what they're saying, and they'll make that switch, or if just for like 2 weeks, you won't be able to use it. I guess just with those specific Nest products is the thing, not just any of your Google integrations. So that makes sense. It is just a little bit of a transition period, but
yeah, exactly. This is just a switching over. And in fact, anyone who bought Hue devices after August 31st of last year was not able to tie in with the Nest integration because Google ceased allowing any new tie-ins after that date. So it's not a surprise that old platform is going to be discontinued and that we'll be moving on for sure. We had been talking about this next one for quite a while. And it's finally here. I saw, I don't think it was a Lifehacker article that I saw, but I did see an article about this talking about how now there's direct streaming on your Apple Watch from Spotify, which absolutely loves Apple. Spotify does. If for anyone who's not initiated, Spotify has had a number of antitrust complaints against Apple. And so that is the joke there. But yeah, have you used this? I don't know. Are you a Apple Watch? Are you a Spotify subscriber?
I signed up for it, but I haven't used this integration yet. I was looking at some of their other. There's an app called Shortcutify that hooks into their API, and I was using that kind of stuff. But this is the Apple Watch stuff has been growing a lot, and so I'm super excited. I have still been having issues with my watch on the betas, and my watch has been dying about like at 2 p.m. every day until this last week. So I think I've been struggling to test some of this stuff, but I'm just like glad to see more of this competition. And I think it's somewhat implied soon that Pandora already rolled out their integration with the HomePod, and now this stuff is coming to Spotify soon. We can hope. So kind of just for sure this is now working, because we did mention that they've been beta testing this for a while.
Yeah. Let's see what's next. Oh, Bose has a new sound bar out, and it I think I did see something about this because I was looking. I don't know why I'm doing that voice. I was looking for a new soundbar recently. Until this, maybe we'll talk about that soon. But I was looking for a new soundbar, and I saw on Amazon that a lot of the Bose products were sold out, or it was kind of one of those, don't know if this will return, if we'll ever have it available or whatever. And that usually means that they're working on something new. But so I waited basically, and Bose has, excuse me, its new soundbar, the Bose Smart Soundbar 300, which has AirPlay 2, Bluetooth, Spotify. Yeah, and costs $400. It's also got assistant support for ALEXA and the Google Assistant. It is comparable to other devices that do this, that sort of feature all of this functionality. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool, and I know Bose has traditionally had a really good audio. Interestingly, it uses Bluetooth 4.2 instead of Bluetooth 5, but it does support Apple's AirPlay 2, and it has built-in Spotify functionality. The Business Insider says it's, quote, I got to find the quote, it is, quote, lacking some mid-range fullness, but it is a solid option for all types of uses. Even a tiny bit of it doesn't sound as great as I would like it to is enough to make me go, then I don't want, you know what I mean? If I'm going to spend $400 on a soundbar, it better have that dadgum mid-range fullness. You know what I mean?
I think they are mentioning that it's a bit of for music specifically versus just listening to your TV. So I thought that was like an interesting note. Just, it's not going to sound, I mean, it is a sound bar. And so that's kind of the realm where you're not going to have as strong a bass, or you got to get the extra speakers to kind of fill out the thing. So there it is. Like, this is, if you're in the Bose world, this is like the sound bar to get to build out the setup to, and kind of having a holistic thing. I think it's kind of just interesting. Sound bars in general, I don't know when they started to be a thing, but I missed it until like college, which I'll admit now that I think about it is over 10 years ago. But it's still, I remember just being like, I've never even like considered a sound bar or anything like that, just because it seemed a step in between the TV set and the full speaker system, and I wanted to go like all the way there. But I think this kind of thing especially makes sense. They're saying it's low profile, so that's a big thing, is does it fit underneath the TV? Because that isn't always the case. So I think it's just an interesting product area, especially for, I mean, this is kind of the music section, so it's not as great of a product for that, but still, if you are trying to beef out your TV setup, a soundbar is a good kind of step in between. Maybe if you're doing that, maybe you're not going for the $400 Bose one. But again, Bose is just like the standard of audio. At least it was when I grew up, or I got that impression from my grandpa somehow. So interesting branding there.
Yeah, for now I'm the soundbar became less important to me after. Actually, you know what? We'll talk about that next, because we've got sort of an Apple category, and I want to talk about something that I did recently that kind of ties into that. But first, let's take a quick break, folks. This episode of Smart Tech Today is brought to you by Casper. Now, you and me and we have all heard of Casper. You know, the sleep company with outrageously comfortable products at not so outrageous prices. Like comfortable prices. From award-winning mattresses to pillows and sheets and duvets, Casper transforms the way we sleep one snooze at a time. They've got bedding, bed frames, and even a dog bed. Casper has everything you need to build the bed of your dreams. Every Casper mattress is designed with a system to react and adapt to your body all night long. Inside, precisely 1,501 perforations create a cooling system so effective you won't be awake to notice. Only Casper mattresses are made with 86 supportive gel pods to align your spine and eliminate aches and pains. Altogether, it's the cooling, supportive comfort you need for the most refreshed feeling come morning. I love my Casper mattress. I've had it for several years now, and I remember buying it the first time, waiting for it to arrive, getting the box, dragging it up my stairs in that box, putting it down on the floor, and following the instructions very carefully while I cut it open and let it breathe for the first time. And ever since then, I've been breathing and sleeping comfortably on my Casper mattress, and it's held up over time. It's a wonderful mattress that helps me get a good night's sleep, and I appreciate it. With more than 20,000 reviews and an average of 4.8 stars across Casper, Amazon, and Google, Casper is becoming the internet's favorite mattress, and it's always been my favorite mattress. You can be sure of your purchase with Casper's 100-night risk-free Sleep On It trial. That way you can try it out and make sure it is the right mattress for you. Casper offers free shipping and painless returns to the US and Canada. And now, with 0% APR financing options, it's even easier to try a Casper mattress. Go to casper.com/STT, Smart Tech Today, and use code STT for $100 off select mattresses. That's code STT for $100 off select mattresses. Terms and conditions apply. See casper.com/terms. Our thanks to Casper for sponsoring this week's episode of Smart Tech Today. So we talked a little bit about it last week, but I wanted to touch on it because it is something that I tried out. Apple released its iOS 14.2 update, and with that came a new version of the HomePod software, and with that came a new feature called Home Theater. So for as long as the HomePod's been around and AirPlay has been part of it, a feature of it, a piece of functionality for it, there's been the option to use the HomePod as the external speaker for your Apple TV. And so you go in on the Apple TV and you choose audio, and then you can change it so that it airplays over the HomePod. But one of the biggest pain points with that is if you got one HomePod or you've got two HomePods set up as a stereo pair, all the time the Apple TV would lose the HomePod and you'd have to reconnect it, which is just annoying. So a lot of people ended up just using the speakers on their television or using a soundbar or using something else. And so I had used a soundbar for a while, but I kept having trouble with my soundbar. So I ended up unplugging the soundbar and just using the cruddy speakers that are built into my television because it was just so much easier and I didn't have to worry about anything. But with the introduction of Home Theater on the HomePod, things have changed. Home Theater basically it improves upon the experience of using your HomePod or HomePods as the external audio device for your Apple TV. If you have a HomePod and you have an Apple TV, if you, in the Home app, take the HomePod and you put it in the same room as the Apple TV that you have, or Apple TVs, depending, then it only works with the Apple TV 4K. If I'm not mistaken, I don't quote me on that part because it may work with the last gen Apple TV. Yes, as in yes, it only works with the 4K.
I believe so. I've seen it said in the updates like works with Apple TV 4K, so I'm pretty sure the old one's.
I thought I read that too. So if you can confirm that, then yeah. Sure. I just wanted to be sure that I wasn't making that part up. So yeah, I'm almost certain I read that as well. So works with the Apple TV 4K. So I took my HomePod, which I had in my kitchen, because again, I didn't want to use it as an audio speaker for my Apple TV because it wasn't working. And I took it from the kitchen, both physically and in the Home app, and moved it to the living room. And up in the Home app popped this option that said, would you like to use this HomePod with Home Theater or something along those lines? And I said yes. And now every time I turn on my Apple TV, it automatically connects to the HomePod. The audio is synced perfectly. It sounds fantastic, and it works without me having to get involved at all. So now, after all this time, I am thinking about getting another HomePod to do a stereo pair because it's actually going to work. And the sound is really amazing because it's not just normal sound. As you know, the HomePod has a crud ton of tweeters built into the top of it. And if you can pull that up, there's like where the HomePod kind of expands and it shows all the stuff that's inside. I don't know if they even have that anymore. Yeah. They might not. But essentially, it was built to have a bunch of different speakers inside of it that. There we go. So for folks who are listening and not watching, we're showing that there's a the woofer at the top and all these little tweeters around the bottom, and they push out sound in different ways. And the HomePod is constantly hearing how those sounds bounce off of walls and come back to provide for the best sound, no matter where it is. But what it can also do is use those different tweeters and the microphones that it has built in to provide for spatial sound. And so what has happened is if you have a 4K Apple TV and you have a show that supports Dolby Atmos, which is a sound profile that's a lot like surround sound, but allegedly better, it can use that information to actually support Dolby Atmos and put sound throughout your room. So I was watching with my partner, The Walking Dead, I think it was. And no, maybe it was something on Netflix, because I think Netflix does Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. Whatever it was something that actually did support that sound profile. And genuinely, I had a moment where I kind of looked behind me because I thought there was a bird tweeting awesome. Behind me. So it legitimately works, and it's been flawless. So much so that I forgot that it was a feature that I had set up, because I turned on my Apple TV, I started playing something, and then I thought, I'm going to need to go in and set it back to the HomePod. No, buddy, no, pal. It was already set with the HomePod because it actually worked.
Yeah, wow. So that's cool. That's amazing. I am close to testing this out. I was kind of waiting for my HomePod minis, but it doesn't work with those on the TVs. So part of that is that I have one in my office and one in the living room, but we don't use it for the TV because it sounded like a pain in the butt to do this every single time. And I do have a surround sound speaker system. So that's going to be very interesting. I was actually thinking about this morning. I might make a video comparison.
I'd love to see the comparison.
Right now, when I sit in my living room, I hear some sort of humming buzz noise that I can't figure out. We've literally listened to every device, and I'm going to have to go through and unplug them. But I'm definitely very sensitive to sound levels like that. So that's also, the kind of thing. I'm starting
to think there might be something wrong with your electrical system, because I swear every device you have in your house makes a buzzing sound.
I mean, those were just those products itself. But yeah, it's I don't know. And it also didn't used to happen. So it's we don't even have heating or anything. So there's not really that much electrical stuff going on. But also, we did blow a fuse this morning because we were trying to heat up the house with space heaters. So, not the most fun. But I mean, that's when you have two space heaters running. That almost happens in any house. Shouldn't do that. But yeah, so we'll see with the HomePods. I think that is the thing that keeps tripping me out with the HomePod Mini, is it feels like it's perfect for this, but it doesn't have the same kind of features. I think this is something still that I've been just waiting until I can get them in my hands, because this Apple onslaught of news has been endless. Every single day there's some sort of new Apple news, but it won't really do the same type of spatial awareness, the minis. And so it kind of feels odd to release this feature at the same time, because I feel like people are going to try to buy these for your TV set. And it's kind of not as designed for that as much.
Yeah, here's how I see. Here's my thought on this. I think that Apple, especially the way, if you go back and you watch the event, the way that they showed off the HomePod Mini, they really want this to be the smart speaker in your room, in the different rooms around your house device. And that gives you the ability to free up the HomePods that you bought before to be your home theater speakers. And
they just assume you bought them.
Well, I mean, I'm saying specific to your case.
Yeah,
that gives you the ability. But for anybody who does have HomePods, now those can be your home theater and music speakers in your main space. And it slides that more expensive HomePod into a category where it actually makes sense because it is comparable to other soundbar devices that are out there, smart soundbars that are out there. And so you get the HomePod Mini into the smart speaker space, you slide the HomePod over into the smart soundbar space, and you do it with functionality that's actually working now. And suddenly, I think they both make sense. And I'm looking forward to having that HomePod Mini kind of be the device that can go wherever, and you just keep those HomePods anchored.
It's like in theory, it does make sense. I mean, I think it's mostly a disappointment if you wanted 2 HomePod Minis for your TV setup, but even one HomePod itself, because of the way it throws that audio, can do some of the Dolby surround or Atmos fanciness. So that's another thing to test too, is even just with one speaker, it should sound really cool. So you hopefully don't have to get a second one if you didn't already. But it does make sense I'm planning on putting the HomePod Mini in my office, and I don't need that surround sound thing as much there. So yeah, that's cool. It's going to be an exciting time for that.
Speaking of exciting, there is a new FDA cleared Apple Watch app. It does require a prescription. And it is kind of, there's still studies and things like that going on, but it's called NightWare, and it helps folks who have PTSD. It helps them with nightmares so that they can sort of get a restful sleep. So the idea here is you've got a wristwatch that can both monitor your sleep and monitor your heart rate and I said both, but now there are 3 that I'm thinking of. Monitor your sleep, monitor your heart rate, and monitor your motion, which frankly, monitoring sleep is monitoring those other pieces as well as some other things. And then by listening, by watching through the use of those sensors, it can determine if you're having a nightmare and just buzz your wrist. And in doing so, the idea is that it doesn't rouse you from sleep, but instead it simply interrupts the nightmare that you're having and lets you continue to sleep. And here's what's fascinating. I've got to go into the sleep science a little bit, of course. We've got the 3 stages of sleep and REM. You've got stage 1 of sleep, which is as you're kind of getting ready. It's sort of the doze off stage a little bit. You're not quite asleep yet. Stage 2, you actually are asleep, but it's still a light sleep where you could be roused from sleep. Stage 3 is that deep sleep, and that's the restorative stage of sleep. Then you go back up to stage 2, back up to stage 1. Typically at this point, you go back down to stage 2, back down to stage 3, up to 2, up to 1, and then you go to REM. Sometimes people can just go down and up to REM automatically, but not everybody. So you hit those 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 REM. And REM sleep is actually, in terms of brain activity, it is the most comparable to being awake. So your brain activity actually can look like you are awake, but you are asleep. And what's fascinating is your brain actually protects you when it's in REM sleep. That's kind of why we don't know a whole lot about REM sleep, but and REM, for anybody who doesn't know, it stands for rapid eye movement. And they call it that because if you look at someone who's in REM sleep, their eyes are moving around underneath their eyelids. Now, we don't know why it's incredibly important. We get stage 3, that restorative sleep. That's where your brain kind of clears out those old chemicals and stuff. But when it comes to REM, we have to believe that it's important because it's been documented that your brain protects you from waking up when you are in REM sleep. And that is why, folks who are having dreams, you may have had dreams before where you suddenly start dreaming about a cat meowing. And what's happening is that your cat in real life, if you have a cat that's meowing at the door saying, let me in, I want to eat, or I want to go outside, or I want to do this, or I want to do that, is doing that to try to get in. And instead of you just waking up because of that sound, you actually stay asleep, and your brain puts the cat into your sleep. Other people have different things where I used to, when I was a kid, I would roll over onto my face and the pillow for some reason. And so I would have trouble breathing, obviously, because I was suffocating myself. But because I was in REM sleep, I would start dreaming about being surrounded by like a big old spider was surrounding me with webs, and I was like suffocating in the dream. I know it is a nightmare. Horrifying. But then I would wake up with my face in the pillow. Oh, I'm actually like about to, die. So my point here is that your brain tries to keep you in REM sleep. That's why we think it's important. But that is why a buzz on the wrist can still keep you asleep, but keep you from waking up, because of the protective nature of the brain when it comes to REM sleep. So this is super cool. This clearly, like even just a first glance at this, I can see how based in sleep science this is. And of course, I mean, it's been cleared by the FDA to continue to do this. So you have to qualify for the study, and then it would get approved by your doctor, like as a prescription for it. And it's only part of the rest of it. But the idea is that, folks who have PTSD related nightmares end up not getting a good night's sleep and wake up and panic over and over and over again throughout the night. So I think this is fantastic as a way to try and mitigate the ill effects, because this is a thing that just builds on itself. The more you don't get that good night's sleep that you need, the more susceptible you are when you are awake to the symptoms of PTSD. And so it's just, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's why a lot of times with PTSD treatment, they do focus so much on sleep, because everybody needs sleep. And we especially need sleep to keep our brain's defenses up and in place in order to do those things. So I am sorry for absolutely bogarting this topic. I think that I love it. I think it's fantastic.
This is another Dr. Mikah, not official doctor segment.
I just play one on TV.
On the podcast.
What else have you got for us?
I've got a cool article from 9to5Mac just about Bradley Chambers, who's one of the writers, had a whole camera set up with the Eufy cam, and basically accidentally realized that he had left his keys in his car. And basically he has video footage of people coming up to his car and starting to rifle through it, but the lights turned on, the Hue floodlights automatically turned it on, and they ran off and ran away. So that was based off of the Eufy cameras, turned it on the Hue thing with an automation. So basically he's attributing it to the HomeKit automation helped his car from being prevented or from being stolen. So
cool.
That's always a great kind of sign there. He also ties it into Apple's got rumored AirTag things with location type stuff in it, similar to Tile. And he's like, I would love that on my keys, so I don't accidentally do this again and not realize that I'm like just far enough away. That is a good example of that kind of thing of near field detection. Is it's not a couple feet away, but if it's within 20 feet out in the driveway, that's probably too far. So kind of a interesting angle there, and always good to see. Sometimes it is like, who knows what people's motivations are or whatever, but it is always nice to actually see stuff that works and isn't just like, I'm just afraid of these kind of things, as it actually did help them in that kind of situation. So
yes, it is nice to see that. That's a really good point.
The next one though is not as fun of an article, and you were mentioning link bait earlier. I call it clickbait, but I was a little bit upset the other day. Same from 9to5Mac also, but they have a headline that was how to automatically. Oh, okay. Maybe they
have they updated it.
I linked in the wrong article, but they had one that was a shortcuts piece that basically said that you could use shortcuts to detect when you're on your Wi-Fi and automatically unlock your front door. Or I think the headline was automatically unlock your front door with short. Yeah. So what they're referring to is that Shortcuts has a personal automation for Wi-Fi stuff, and you could use that to send you an alert when you get onto your Wi-Fi network to then unlock your door. But that is not fully automatic. And I do just want to emphasize that it is not I find it frustrating to misrepresent what shortcuts can do, because even somebody replied when I tweeted, I was like, this is clickbait. And he was like, dang, I excitedly clicked on this article because I thought it was now true, and it's not. And so that was kind of the frustrating situation. Is right now, Wi-Fi location and Bluetooth triggers do not trigger without asking through a shortcut's personal automation. So to call it automatically happening isn't true. You can make it easier to unlock your door when you get to the Wi-Fi thing, but it is not going to be just when you get on your Wi-Fi network, your front door unlocks. Probably, as you just think about it, for pretty good security reasons, because otherwise you could just be sitting at home, your phone reconnects to your Wi-Fi, and then your house is now unlocked while you're sitting in it or something like that. So just to clarify, that is not possible right now.
Well, yeah, that's troublesome to me. I think most of the time it takes a third-party app, like the third-party manufacturer, to make this happen. And I think that the big reason there is because Apple just doesn't feel good about being part of that whole unlock automatically process. The closest that you can get to is when I arrive at home. And this is just an automation within the Home app. When I arrive at home, open up my garage door. But even still, it pops up a notification that you then sort of Face ID confirm, and then it opens up the garage door. But I used to use the August smart lock in my old home because I had a door that could actually work with it. And it had functionality that would pair GPS and Bluetooth together. It would use the GPS to determine how close you were to your house once you got in within the range. Then it would listen on Bluetooth for you to kind of approach and feel the movement of your phone, knowing that you had stepped out of the car and started walking toward the door, and then unlock. And that worked well. But that was something, I just feel like the message that I get from Apple, the subliminal message that I get from Apple is that they're not interested in kind of opening up the opportunity for folks to accidentally make their homes less safe by doing this automatically. So,
yeah, I think it's just got to be smarter too. I do think ultra wideband and AirTags type stuff could be enough. Where if the phone is in your pocket and you walk up to the door, that's the point where they can like for sure determine that connection is intentional. I think they'll never put out a shortcuts automation thing that could create issues for you, and will work backwards towards once they actually get it to work properly versus exposing somebody to something that could create major issues. So I appreciate that. And I hope to see this exact type of thing. I think that's why I was like, I'm so excited. I was like, oh, awesome. And then I was like, oh, just kidding. It's not. So I don't. Tweeting it that it's automatically working is like a misrepresentation.
Yep. Agreed.
Yep.
Up next, we'll talk about our projects, and I'm looking forward to it. So this week, folks, the project that I am talking about is an interesting one, and it starts with a little bit of a story here. So bear with me while we go on a little journey together. Since the start of the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus, there has been, of course, a lot of lockdown, a lot of precautions being taken. And one of those things is related to my apartment complex here in Petaluma. In the before times, the postal service, when you had deliveries through the postal service, they would drive their truck into the apartment complex and they would walk packages to your doorstep and put them on your doorstep. They would also sometimes take the packages and leave them at the front desk. They would give them to the front desk person, and then you would get a notification, an email or something like that says, hey, you've got packages here. You go there, you show that you are who you are, and then the person would give you your packages. Since the start of the coronavirus, because of the desire to not introduce, more people to the germ bubbles, the Postal Service and my apartment complex came to an agreement that, and this is all according to a source within the Postal Service that I spoke to, who's a very cool person. But anyway, they were explaining to me that they sort of came to an agreement where instead of leaving packages in the office or dropping them off on porches, they would hold them at a nearby distribution facility. And so you have to, it's basically the post office, but it's their distribution portion. So you'd go to, what I've had to do for the longest time now, since March, is drive to the distribution facility, say I've got some packages that I want to pick up, prove that I am who I say I am, show my address, and then they would give me my packages. The problem with that is that sometimes the packages would not be sorted by the time that I got the notification for it, so they weren't available. Depending on who you talked to, they would require different forms of verification, less forms of verification, more forms of verification. Some of them would let my partner pick up packages for both of us. Some of them would only let me pick up packages for me, him for him. And so it's not consistent. It is a hassle. And, I use Amazon for a lot of my shopping because we live in a stinking, I can't even think of the term now. What is this called? This
food desert?
Global,
okay.
pandemic. I don't know why I couldn't think of pandemic. Because we live in a dadgum pandemic, but food desert is also interesting. Friends, Food Desert was my rap name, featuring Snoop Lion. Anyway, I'm sorry. Back to the story. So it's annoying. And I feel bad for the people at the post office who, I've been in line before. They've got 6 feet. I've been in line before behind some people who get very frustrated, very upset that their packages aren't there, who say, I didn't get this. It's just a mess. Yeah. And what was annoying is that Amazon used to do a lot of the deliveries to my apartment complex. And when that happened, they would drive their Amazon delivery truck up and they'd put the package on my doorstep and they'd take a photo showing that it was there. And everybody's happy, and there was no, extra stuff. So I actually reached out to Amazon support service, and I said, "Hey, is there a way? I'm a Prime member. Is there a way that I can request that the USPS not be the one to deliver my packages?" And this was after, I kid you not, 3 packages went missing entirely. I couldn't find them anywhere. Ended up luckily getting refunds for them, but I never got those. And I said I would even be willing, even as a Prime member, I'd be willing to pay, some delivery fee, as long as it's not, too expensive, to just get to use Amazon. Well, no, there's no way we can do that. So I just sort of have, gone with it because it's all I could do. There was no other option until I remembered a thing that Amazon had come out with a while back that I always poo-pooed because I was privileged and lived in a place where I did not have this issue. And I thought, what if I use Key by Amazon? Would that make it so that basically Amazon has to be the one delivering my packages? So
that's the in-garage delivery thing.
Yes. So let me explain to the listeners out there and the viewers what Key by Amazon is. This was a feature that Amazon came out with that tied in with smart garage doors and smart garage door openers, where it essentially gives temporary and very specific access to a delivery driver to open up your garage door, leave a package within 5 feet of the entrance, and then close your garage door again and go away. I love that animation, Kevin. You're wonderful. And so there's no fee. There's nothing like that. Essentially what happens is the Amazon delivery driver, you tie it. I have a MyQ Smart Garage Door Opener, which, by the way, they're available for just $30 on Amazon right now for folks who are curious. This this works with pretty much any. If you've got a garage door opener that has those safety sensors that go on the left and right side of your garage door that shoot that invisible beam, where if somebody's standing in it, like the beam is cut off or something or an object where the garage door won't close, then you can use this. Basically, it just has to be new enough to have those safety sensors, and then you can use this. It works like an extra garage door opener that you would buy, that you program, essentially just blasting the right signal to your garage door opener. And it comes with like a light and everything too. But anyway, point is you integrate that, and then the delivery driver gets a button they can press to open the garage door. You get a notification. They actually like kind of over notify you, which I like. It's like, tomorrow you have a delivery. It's going to be coming. It'll be delivered inside, as they say. You can take a photo of your house so that they know that they're going to the right house. You can actually take a photo and point to where you want the package to be dropped within the garage door. They can only go up to 5 feet into the garage. That's the rule. And you can set it up with an integration with an Amazon Skycam, a Ring Cam, or a MyQ camera, so that a camera automatically starts recording as soon as the garage door opens, so that you can watch the whole interaction and make sure that it goes as it's supposed to. So I decided the other day, I'm going to try this out and just see if this works how I think it will. So I ordered something unimportant, and I put it in my cart. I went to checkout and I chose Key by Amazon, and immediately it said that it was going to be delivered by Amazon. So I was like, yes. Nice. And then I got the notification, your package will be delivered tomorrow. Yes. And then I got the notification, your delivery driver will be there today. Your package will be delivered inside. Yes. And then I got the notification, your delivery driver is about to arrive. Yes. And then I heard the garage door open. And then I turned on my camera that's not integrated, but I do have a camera in the garage. I watched them. They had their phone out. They walked up with the packages. They put them down. They walked out. They hit the button again. The garage door closed. Yes. I went downstairs and I got my packages. Yes. And so then I used it again. And what was super great too is that Amazon, so I have like subscribe and save stuff. And typically that's subscribe and, in fact, the garage door is opening right now. So I imagine that's so funny.
Wow.
That is probably them.
Amazing.
Let's see. I'm going to look at my
so creepy, but
camera really quick and see if that's them.
Not. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not them, then my partner might be home. Yep. They just dropped off some packages.
Wow. That's so good. What a timing.
I know, right? Wild.
That's amazing.
So, a package that normally has in the past been delivered by United States Postal Service. I don't know if
the subscribe and save is?
The subscribe and save was. It was delivered by Amazon, and it was not, because it had been set up before, it was not automatically a key delivery, but because the driver who was delivering the other two packages was had that third package from subscribe and save, they went ahead and put that in my garage too. So that was like icing on the cake, folks.
Yeah, wow. They'll like default to that a little bit.
Yes, exactly. So now, as I've been, getting more subscribe and save, I've noticed that a lot of them have been Amazon now. So there's two things that could be happening. One is that Amazon is getting back to a place where they have more delivery workers available, and it just so happened to be at the right time that I decided to make this switch. And so that's why those other packages are defaulting to Amazon. Or because I'm using key delivery for most of my other stuff now, this is also working. So I like that this takes some burden off of the USPS.
That's a good point.
I, of course, love the convenience of not having to argue with and I tend not to. I try to just walk away quietly and just come back later. But work with the big bureaucracy that is the USPS. And just, it's so convenient and safer that instead of, me being one more vector of disease potentially, this driver drops off the package in my garage. We never make contact or anything like that, and it just happens. Amazon is doing this in a very safe and secure way that, like I said, it only gives them access to it right in that moment. I have it set so that like I invited my partner to it as well, so he can do it with his packages because we're a Prime family. So yeah, you can even see the driver sort of like crouches down and just barely sticks it into the house and then walks away. And that's how they do it. They really do barely go inside. So I originally poo-pooed this, but I think it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And especially, I think in my brain, I thought you had to buy one of the $200 like whole garage door opener setups from Chamberlain for this kind of thing. But it makes sense that I think they say it should work with most garages after 1993, as long as you had that, which is where they kind of made that standard. So that's pretty awesome. Yep. $30 to save going to the postal service potentially multiple times a week. Like, yes, that's absolutely worth your money. So that makes a lot of sense. I might buy this for my parents for Christmas or something like that.
Yeah.
We don't have a garage door opener, but definitely just the thought of like getting packages stolen or like that is like you for sure know when they're delivered. That's kind of a thing that happens to me is that they'll just drop it and then walk away. And like, I swear they like creep up on their tippy toes and like don't make any noise. And like we're sitting there in the room and we can hear everything that happens on the street. It's like, I didn't even hear the car pull up. Like what is going on sometimes? So
yeah,
that's pretty awesome. And I think it does kind of go along with something. I mean, we tend to not be like huge fans of Amazon in terms of how creepy they can be, but
yes,
so many times it's their optics where it is like this plus all of the other things does start to feel weird, but in terms of an actual product offering for sometime when you need it, and with the pandemic on top of that, that also makes a lot of sense. Confusing the service and where you have to go. They're like going in line to the postal service and waiting in a room defeats the purpose of ordering it online. So like
precisely.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that if it had been a different company that was doing these, like I was ordering from somewhere else and Amazon was doing the key part of it, then I would maybe feel a little bit more about it because then they're tracking, but I'm ordering from Amazon, so they know what I'm ordering already. So this is just an addition to that. All right, time for our picks of the week. Matthew, what do you have for us?
Yes, I have the Lenovo Smart Clock Essential, and I've mentioned this once or twice, and it's kind of in a weird half smart display, but not a video screen. It seems like they're moving slightly away from the older version, but it's a $50 basically bedside clock that can also show you the temperature, show you little weather conditions, and you can speak to it and stuff like that. I mostly picked this up because right now it's on sale for $30, and I think this is kind of one of those things that probably wait for it to go on sale because those tend to, and it is like $50 kind of gets into the realm of I'm not sure if it's worth it, but $30 I was like, yeah, I'll try this out. I appreciate having a good bedside clock, and I'm curious just ways to use it a little bit more with my daily routines. So the thing that we noticed was I've had, this is for indoor temperatures, but now that it's quite cold in Berkeley compared to last week. I think it was 70, and then this morning it was 36 degrees. So definitely a jump when you don't have insulation and you have single pane windows. So we've been I'm wearing like 5 layers of clothes here today, but having the temperature, we moved it into one of our main spaces and really just being like, oh, it's 66 versus 60 degrees in here. Let's turn on the space heater kind of thing. So I'm interested in kind of getting more daily weather thing on my alarm clock. I almost don't check it enough because it doesn't seem to change sometimes. And I just get caught wearing short socks when it's freezing cold outside or something. So having that right on there sounds nice.
Yeah.
What's your pick?
So speaking of Amazon, I think you probably remember, and for folks tuning in for the first time, or if you don't, not too terribly long ago here on the show, we covered a new feature from Amazon called Print with Alexa. And this was a thing where you could tie your Amazon Echo device to your printer, and it would let you do some different things like grocery shopping. So you could print your shopping list. You could print a to-do list. You could print a recipe for salmon. And it was only available for certain printers. And so I made the joke like, oh, great, now I'm going to have to get a new printer in order to use this. Well, when I got my new Amazon Echo, the Orb, one of the things that's unique about it is it has a Zigbee radio built into it. And so what you can do with that is you say Alexa discover devices. And when it does that, it checks your network for devices that it can connect to. And I was doing that for just to kind of see which devices in my home it would be able to connect to. And oddly enough, two things happened that I didn't expect. One of the printers at work in the TWiT office showed up as an option. And my printer, my old AF printer that I have, it's not like super, super old, but it's pretty old, printer that I have showed up as well. And that is because I have an Echo Dot with clock at work, and I have loads of different Echoes here. And so I thought, what? I can tie in these printers? That's really cool. I thought that certainly the one at work is newer, but the one that I have, I thought was not going to work with it. But for some reason it did. So I tapped on it, and it lets you set up, the ink reordering. You get 10% off. It monitors your ink and will automatically reorder if you want to. But that wasn't the important thing. The important thing to me was the feature that I had talked about before. So, print a maze. Oh, it's working.
Amazing.
Amazing. It took a maze to work. And the maze is coming out. What a lovely waste of ink.
Perfectly seamless experience.
So, yeah, I think depending on what, here we go.
It's like
depending on what the thing is that you're asking to print, it is either tied to a skill or it's built into Alexa. And if it's built into Alexa, it doesn't need to install a skill in order to work. And so it's just going to work off the jump. But,
nice.
And you can also say print a hard maze so that it becomes even more difficult. So yeah, depending, it might be tied to Jumpstart Academy, for example. I assume that the recipes are probably tied to like Epicurious. And then graph paper, line paper, those are Alexa built in. And the crossword puzzle is also tied to a skill.
I like the worksheets, though. Like it's a fourth grade solar system worksheet. Nice. Like with parents, if you are, it's like, I need to get the kid to do something right now.
I need to indoctrinate my child to believe that Pluto doesn't matter. Sorry.
Very political issues with these print features.
I thought this was going to be a gentle topic, but alas, not only am I frustrated, but now I'm reminded that no one believes in Pluto anymore. I still believe in you, Pluto. You can hear my clapping. All right, folks. That brings us to the end of another episode of Smart Tech Print Today. We do appreciate you for tuning in. If you have questions, thoughts, printings you want me to test out, you can send those to stt@twit.tv. If you want to watch the show live and see all of the troubleshooting that we do during the show, well, that's easy. You just head to twit.tv/live every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, and that's where you can see us do our thing. But the best way to watch the show or listen to the show is by subscribing. If you go to twit.tv/STT, you'll see links to subscribe to the show in all of its formats on all of the different places where it's available in both audio and video, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc., etc., etc. If folks want to follow you online and see all the great stuff you do, Matthew, where do they go to do that?
I have a Twitter account that I set up for some of my more regular links because I don't want to spam people on my main one, but it's just at Cassinelli Media. And I'm trying to use that to be like, oh, I'm live, kind of stuff like that now. So there's kind of a good mix. You can just follow those and go look back through what I've been doing. What about you?
You can find me on Twitter and pretty much all the social media networks, not Parler, at Mikah Sargent. And you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the different places I exist online. But again, at Mikah Sargent is going to get you to all of those anyway. Alrighty, folks. That is that. It is time to say good afternoon. And please stop printing to all of your smart assistants.
Yeah, please do not print this podcast.
Hey, I'm Jason Howell, host of Hands on Android. Every week, I take a look at the Android operating system and the phone that you have in your hands to tell you how to use it better. Is it tips? Is it tricks? Is it little-known secrets, experiments, even emails from fans of the show? You name it, we talk about it on Hands on Android. You can subscribe by going to twit.tv/HOA and make sure that you do that so you don't miss a single episode. We'll see you there.